G'day, my name's Alan Gamble. Welcome to another episode of Aussie Box Office Charts. Bit of an interesting one this weekend, so let's dive into a little bit of a surprise. Starting with the top 10 for this weekend. Weapons opened in number 1 with $2.8 million. Zach Cregger's new horror movie, the creator of Barbarian. A big win for horror in 2025, and we'll dig into those numbers right after the top 10. Freakier Friday, on the other hand, opens fairly weak compared to its 2003 original, opening in second spot with $1.9 million for a current total of $2.1 million. Fantastic Four: First Steps moves down to third, dropping 54% with another $1.6 million for a current total of $14.9 million. F1 the movie sits at number 4 for I think it's like third week in a row. In its 7th week of release, dropping just 21%, which is a crazy hold for a current total of just over $28 million. And Superman rounds out our top 5 with another $800,000 after 5 weeks of release, dropping 45% for a current total of $23.6 million. Moving on to 6 through 10, at number 6 we have Jurassic World Rebirth with another $600,000 in its 6th week of release, dropping 44% for a current total of $30.4 million. At number 7 we have Mahavatar Narsimha, a Hindi language animated fantasy out of India, telling the story of Vishnu and Prahlad. I may have got some of that incorrect, but that is my understanding. Bringing in $395,000 in its opening week. Then we have Dead to Rights, a historical war drama out of China telling the story of the Nanjing Massacre. I'm sure it's completely neutral on the subject, but it brought in $377,000. And at number 9, we have Stans, a music documentary telling the story of super fandom via the personal stories of Eminem, directed by Stephen Leckhart. And rounding out our top 10, Chalmera Part 4 spends another week in the top 10, dropping 59% for a current total of just over $1 million, with another $200,000 this weekend. So, speaking of weapons, first of all, we do have a top 5 horror opening of 2025. Weapons taking the top spot with its $2.8 million opening, which bumped 28 years later with its $2.5 million down to second. Nosferatu down to third with its $2.3. Final Destination Bloodlines down to 4 with its just over $2 million. And then Sinners at number 5 with its $1.3. Obviously, this is dropping out I Know What You Did Last Summer, which just got on this chart a few weeks ago. That is our current top 5 horror openings of 2025, so Weapons putting in the good yards there as well. But let's dig deeper into Weapons. First of all, let's compare his opening of his last movie, Barbarian, back in 2022. It opened to just under $400,000, and Weapons opened to $2.8 million. So, not sure what to say, but that's an overwhelming success for Zach Cregger. I'm sure people are very keen to see what he does next. I think he has a few things in the works, including a take on Resident Evil, which could be really cool. But in terms of opening, in fact, let's just compare Weapons to Barbarian with its total domestic run. And we have $2.8 million as an opener for Weapons. Barbarian brought in a total of $1.2 million. So, overwhelming success for Zach Cregger in Australia, and I believe that pattern is replicating worldwide for him. Smashing success. Freaky Friday, on the other hand, we tell a different story. Freaky Friday back in 2003 opened to $2.6 million. Now, disclaimer on that, those numbers from 2003 are very, very spotty, so it was hard to confirm an exact number, but this was a number I was able to obtain. I wasn't able to double confirm it with multiple sources that I usually do. But Freakier Friday opened to $1.9 million. Unadjusted for inflation, mind you. If we adjust these numbers for inflation, I believe Freaky Friday in 2003 sits up about $4.5 million. So Freakier Friday, not even getting to half of that in its opening weekend. So we'll see how it stacks up moving forward, but it's got a long way to go. We'll take a quick update to the MCU with Fantastic Four First Steps moving up that chart. It has now passed Brave New World and Thunderbolts, and it's now hot on the heels. It's probably already past Eternals, if we're being honest, and it's closing in on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Ant-Man and Shang-Chi. So it still has a little bit of legs that it's still going. So it could get a little bit further up this chart, but I don't see it passing maybe Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings at $17.1 million. And it's certainly not going any further than that. So while it is a more successful movie for Marvel and Disney, it's still not the smash hit that they were probably hoping for from something that was a big ticket reset like Fantastic Four was set up. A couple of quick changes with the 2025 top 10 for the Australian box office. That is the box office of everything that has been released in calendar year 2025 and the amount that it's brought in. So no changes at 1 and 2, with Minecraft Movie and Lilo and Stitch at 1 and 2 with $56.2 and $34.1 million respectively. How to Train Your Dragon gets knocked down to 4th spot with $30.027 million, knocked down by Jurassic World Rebirth moving up to 3rd with its $30.4 million. F1 the movie stays at number 5 with just over $28 million, and Mission Impossible at number 6 with just over $23.6 million. Superman at number 7 continues to close the gap on Mission Impossible with its $23.6 million, but slightly less. Paddington in Peru with its $17.7 million at number 8. Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy at number 9 with its $16.5 million. And on to the charts, Fantastic Four The First Steps with its $13.9 million, knocking out Thunderbolts out of the top 10. So one MCU movie out and another one in. How long it will stay there, we'll have to see. But it is running out of steam pretty quickly. And we do have some releases coming up in the next few weeks that might contend. So we'll see how this goes, but a few changes this week. Moving on to look at what's upcoming this week. First off, Nobody 2. The sequel to the 2021 action movie, this one directed by Timo Tjahjanto, who directed The Night Comes For Us, so he has the action chops for this, starring Bob Odenkirk, Connie Nielsen, and Christopher Lloyd. We also have The Life of Chuck, finally releases in Australia after releasing everywhere else quite a few months ago. Written and directed by Mike Flanagan, starring Tom Hiddleston, Jacob Tremblay, and Nick Offerman, based on the Stephen King novel. In limited release, so have a hunt around for these if you're interested, we have The Home on August 14th as well. The latest horror movie from James DeMonico, this one about a sinister retirement home, starring Pete Davidson, Bruce Altman, Marilee Talkington, and John Glover. We also have Mr. Burton from director Mark Evans about a Welsh student in 1942 that gets a new opportunity from his teacher, starring Toby Jones and Harry Lotley. Finally, we have War 2, a Hindi language action movie out of India, a sequel to the 2019 original, this one starring N.T. Ramarao Jr., so I'm sure it will bring some numbers. And if those aren't your speed, we also do have a Baby Finn sing-along movie, Into the Pink Fong World from Korea. So if you're looking for a more family-friendly, that is also out. It looks weird. Moving over to streaming, and we have a few things, not a lot. First up, on August 12th, so yesterday, we have Alien Earth over on Disney+. From creator Noah Hawley. So before you write it off, he did write Fargo and Legion, which were both amazing. So we will see how this latest Alien TV series goes, starring Sydney Chandler, Alex Lawther, and Timothy Oliphant. We also have Butterfly, a new series on Amazon Prime on August 13th. A new spy action from Steph Cha and Ken Woodruff, starring Daniel Day-Kim, Piper Perabo, and Rena Hardesty. Finally, on August 13th, over on Netflix, we have the new movie Fixed. a new animated comedy from Gendy Tartovsky, starring Adam Devine, Idris Elba, and Catherine Hahn as voices. Six movies this week for the theme of two character posters. First up was from 2022 with Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, directed by Sophie Hyde and starring Daryl McCormack and Emma Thompson. A movie about a retired school teacher who has lived an unfulfilled life decides to book a male sex worker. A great little intimate movie with just one primary location and two leads carrying the entire movie. Fantastically well written and well performed with genuine heart and humour. I had a great time with it. Next up was Looking for Her from 2022, directed by Alexandra Swarens and starring herself and Olivia Buckle. A low-budget indie comedy of the I need a fake partner for family Christmas trope, been done many times before, and it was fun and a good time, but the lower budget could be felt at times, and that's not always a bad thing, but for some scenes during the opening before the two leads were on screen, I could feel it. But it was still a fun, good time. Can't complain too much. Next up was Never Let Me Go from 2010, directed by Mark Romanek, starring Carey Mulligan, Keira Knightley, Andrew Garfield, and a young Ella Purnell. A group of adults reflect on their times and haunting secrets of their school years and childhood. And I don't really want to say much more than that, so go in blind. A really great movie with some awesome performances and a really immersive story and world that is built, slightly akin to sci-fi in terms of some concepts, but heavily character-focused, with the characters and their stories as their world unfolds. Next was another movie from writer, director, and actor Alexandra Swarens, with her 2025 movie See You Soon, also starring Clementine Pinette. A woman travelling to Italy is forced to stop over in France due to a cancelled flight and spends the night exploring the city and meets a French woman. A movie that is basically a low-budget, indie, gay version of Before Sunrise, and I mean that in the best way possible. It's a real delight, really well written, really authentic, and it just felt really raw and real. And unlike the previous movie, where the seams did show and kind of impacted in a little bit of a negative way, this one I didn't mind it so much, as it kind of just felt kind of raw and kind of reminded me of why I love movies, in that sense that even though it's got probably a really low budget, it's just people telling stories and doing this as a passion, and they love it. And I really did dig this one. Next was a rewatch of Mortal Kombat from 2021, directed by Simon McQuoid and starring Lewis Tan, Jessica McNamee, Mercad Brooks, and Josh Lawson. Super dumb, fun movie with Josh Lawson's Kano being the clear and far highlight of the movie. That is it. Full stop. Kano rocks. Finally was the 2025 rom-com My Oxford Year, directed by Lane Morris, starring Sophia Carson and Corey Milcrest. A pretty standard rom-com affair with an American student and her year at Oxford. And while it could have been a full paint by numbers, it does deviate from the formula halfway through and goes in a bit of a different direction. That saves it from what could have been a completely forgotten movie on Netflix. The pivot direction that they took it in was wholly welcome. For this week's Cinechums challenge, we have opposites. So opposite titles, mismatched partners, so odd couples, culture clashes, young and old, rich and poor, roles reversed, all sorts of fun stuff like that. So we have things like Ted, Lethal Weapon, Lady and the Tramp, Bender Black Beckham, all sorts of stuff. Let's have a look at my shortlist. My shortlist consists of things like Friendship or Vengeance, Batman, Dawn of Justice, Summer of '69, Demolition Man, or Foreign Language, which I've already watched. So we'll see how we go. But that is it for me this week. I will be trying to catch both Nobody 2 and Life of Chuck on the weekend. I might even to see if I can manage to get an early screening of Naked Gun tomorrow, because we have a public holiday up here in Queensland. I will see what I can do, but I've got a few movies to catch, but Nobody 2 and Life of Chuck are definitely on my weekend plans this week. But apart from that, have a good one, watch my movies, and I'll see you next week. Bye.